What up, G? I'm Leon, the Paperback Maniac, coming at you with a brand new collection overview. Tonight, we are taking a look at my collection of St. Martin's Press horror titles. Now, this video was a long time coming. I am a big fan of the SMP horror line. They could always be counted on providing the thrills, the chills, and gore galore. SMP is still around, they just don't publish horror anymore. They're actually one of the largest English language publishers. They put out something like 700 titles a year, mostly in mainstream books, but they do have 7 other imprints publishing everything from mystery to science fiction to thrillers. What concerns us tonight is their brief dip into publishing pulp horror, which started in around the mid-'80s and pretty much ended around 1990, which kind of signified right there the end of the quote-unquote horror boom that had begun in the late 70s and sort of went until right around then, right around 1990s when it all kind of collapsed. So we're going to be showing my paperback collection and one hardcover. So without further ado, let's get to it. So first up, we got some Daniel Ransom books. First one we're taking a look at is The Forsaken. This book was published by SMP in 1988. And this is one of those titles. I think I have like at least 2 other books under the title The Forsaken. Very sort of generic horror title. I have not read this one, but I've heard good things about it, and it looks like a lot of fun. Okay, the next one we've got is The Babysitter. This one was published in 1989, and I love this cover. I love the colors. I love the fact that it looks like a Christopher Pike book or any of those young adult horror books from the early 90s. It's just awesome. This is one that I plan to read possibly in October. This might be part of my Halloween reading because it just has that kind of feel. Looks like a lot of fun. And then the third one we've got from Daniel Ransom is Nightmare Child. This one was published in 1990, and this was the last one. Like I said, they kind of St. Martin's Press was winding down their horror line, if not just forsaking it altogether, around 1990. So, okay, next up, we've got a book called The Dwelling by Tom Elliott. I'm a huge fan of that cover. That is just a thing of beauty right there. This book was published in 1989. And there's the back. I've heard really good things about this book. Looking forward to reading that. Another one I'm looking forward to reading is Doppelganger by Eric Higgs. This book was published in 1987. Eric Higgs published another book with St. Martin's Press that's kind of in my wish list, but is impossible to find, at least the St. Martin's Press edition. I think it's called The Happy Man, and it's very, very rare. So I think St. Martin's Press published that. Actually, now that I think about it, well, it was either St. Martin's Press or it might have been Paperbacks, actually. But anyway, this author is supposed to be really good, and this seems like an interesting book. That's a really intriguing cover, is it not? Okay, then we got a couple of Robert W. Walker books. This one is Aftershock. I reviewed this on the channel. If you haven't seen that video yet, check it out, yo. I really enjoyed this book. This was published in 1987. If you're a fan of sort of B-movie, like sci-fi horror, definitely give this book a shot because it's a lot of fun. And very typical of the kind of stuff St. Martin's Press published. This is probably one of my favorite covers of theirs, though. This is Disembodied by Robert W. Walker. This one was published in 1988. Just look at that. Just amazing pulp horror artwork. It's great. Okay, next up, we've got a book called Black Ashes by Noel Scanlon. This edition from St. Martin's Press was published in 1987, but it was originally published in hardcover, I believe, in 1985. This one looks intriguing too. Okay, then we've got a book called The Pack by John G. Fuller. This book was published in 1989, and looks like this author was taking a page from James Herbert and his series The Rats, because this one is about irradiated rats after some sort of nuclear disaster. And that sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, next we've got Hell Train by Bill Garnett. This book was published, this edition was published in 1988, though it looks like it was originally published in 1973. So it's going back a while. And I think sort of like their modus operandi, it seems like sometimes they found these older pulp titles that were either published like in the early 80s or late 70s, and they just kind of like repackaged them in like a sleek sort of 80s way. And this cover, I don't know if you can tell, but it's really cool because that skull there at the head of the train is like in bas relief. So it really kind of gives the impression that it's kind of hurtling at you. So very, very cool stuff. And then another book by Bill Garnett is The Crone. This was one of the first books I reviewed on this channel, and I enjoyed this one as well. This edition was published in 1987, though this also was first published in 1984. So yeah, this is a good, very, very pulpy book, but fun. I had some issues with the ending, but I have issues with the ending of most of these books. So, you can't really judge a book too harshly because of the ending with these. I just kind of like, okay, did I enjoy it overall? Did it have enough, interesting scenes or fun elements? And that one definitely did. Okay, another book I reviewed, this was actually the last review I did, Down on the Farm by John Scher. This edition was published in 1988, though it was originally published the previous year in hardcover. And yeah, this one, if you haven't seen my review of this one yet, check it out. I greatly enjoyed this book. Not perfect, none of these books are perfect, but definitely a fun time and worth reading if you like pulp horror, because it's definitely a pulp novel. Because I like that one so much, I am super excited to check out his sole other horror novel. This is PattyWhack, an amazing title for a book about a killer dog. And this one was published in 1989. Yeah, I really, really can't wait to read this one. I feel like I'm going to just love it a lot. I love the slogan there, man's best friend or fiend from hell. It's just great. Okay, and then we've got some Freddy books here. This is The Nightmare on Elm Street, parts 4 and 5. These were novelizations written by Joseph Locke, a.k.a. Ray Garton, one of my favorite writers. And this was published in 1989, probably to coincide with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. And haven't read these yet, but they seem fun. And I think these have some pictures. Yeah, I love the novelizations that have like images inside of the movies. That's pretty cool. Gotta love some Freddy goodness. The one Freddy book that I have that I'm actually really excited for, and I hope to read this one fairly soon. This is Nightmares on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger's Seven Sweetest Nightmares. Or I'm sorry, Seven Sweetest Dreams. This is an anthology of short stories edited by Martin H. Greenberg. And the interesting thing about this, they're all original short fiction by some quite heavy hitters of the time. Let me read to you guys the authors that contributed to this thing. So all of these authors are writing like an original Freddy story. So we've got Brian Hodge, Tom Elliott, who we saw just earlier with The Dwelling, Bentley Little, William Relling Jr., Philip Nutman, who wrote for Fangoria, Wayne Allen Sally, short story writer, and Nancy A. Collins, a Stoker Award winner. So pretty esteemed writers there. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one, and I will review this one, even though I don't normally want to review like story collections, but this is one that I do plan to read, if not this summer, then definitely in the fall, and I'm looking forward to reviewing that. Okay, next up, we've got Kate's House by Harriet Waugh. This edition from St. Martin's Press was published in 1987, though it was originally published in 1983. And I've heard that this is sort of like horror adjacent almost, but it sounds amazing. I mean, it really seems like the kind of book that I'm just going to really enjoy. And yeah, looking forward to checking this one out. Okay, then we got a couple of Peter Tremaine books. First up is Zombie, with just a classic cover, just absolutely phenomenal artwork there. This one was published in 1987. This edition, it was originally published in 1981, it looks like. Okay, and then also from Peter Tremaine, we've got Swamp. This one, this one I believe is signed. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That one, this edition was published in 1989, but it was first published in 1985. And yeah, I think it was signed. Yeah, it was signed in 1989. So. And it's in pretty good condition, also, this one. So, yeah, looking forward to checking that out. All right, next up, we've got a book called Fatal Beauty by William Scholl. This one was, let's see, it's published in 1990. And honestly, it was Grady Hendrix's review of this one that really makes me want to read it. It just sounds like the pulpiest and just most batshit crazy premise of all time. Really, there's like something about like a mutant beauty product that does some weird things to the people who apply it onto them. Yeah, seems like a blast. Really looking forward to checking this one out. Okay, next up, we've got The Harlequins Sun by André Launay. And this book was published in 1986. And that's got a really cool cover. It's got like a Slaughter High vibe. That's what I think of when I see that. Okay, next up, we've got Painkiller by Stephen Spruill. This edition was published in 1991. It was originally published the previous year in hardcover. Good old medical thriller. I'm not like huge on medical thrillers. Like I've never read like a Robin Cook book, but I don't know. I'm open to them, so we'll see. Okay, next, these two, I've showed these in my novelization / kind of movie video. This is the official Splatter movie guide, part 1 by John McCarty. Excellent resource if you are a gorehound and enjoy watching splatter flicks. And and it's really cool. I mean, they just have little capsule reviews there. And, you know, I don't always agree with this guy, but it's still really entertaining to read the little reviews. And I actually, you know, discovered some movies that I didn't know about. Yeah, this one, so this was published in 1989. And then he did a follow-up in 1992. This is the official Splatter movie guide part 2. And when I talked about this in my novelization video, I misspoke. This isn't only books that were released between 89 and 92. He actually goes back and like includes other books that he left out of the first volume. So this is basically like also just a bunch of Splatter movies up until 1992, but not just between, you know, the publication of the first volume. So you find stuff from the 70s and the early 80s. This is definitely a really good resource as well. I mean, if you get one, you pretty much have to get the other one. I recommend both of them if you're a fan of those types of movies. Okay, and then we've got a few Michael Falconer Anderson books to round it out. So first up, we've got Blood Right. This edition was published in 1988, and I just love that cover there. It was originally published in 1986 in the UK under the title The Woodsman, which I also have because I'm a freak. But I love this edition. That's really cool. Okay. Also, from Michael Falconer Anderson, we have The Unholy. This edition was published in 1988, though it was originally published in 1987. And finally, the last one is a hardcover. This is The Covenant by Michael Falconer Anderson. This hardcover was published in 1988 and never made it to paperback. It must not have been, I'm guessing it must not have been a very big seller. And I imagine probably those other 1988 paperbacks I just showed, you know, were reprints to kind of coincide with the release of his new one, which, you know, I guess didn't do too well. But what a cool cover, right? That looks really cool. I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm intrigued by that. So yeah, there it is, guys. Those are my St. Martin's Press books that I own. Big fan of those. I hope to do reviews of all of, you know, those books that I haven't read eventually. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed checking that out. You know, keep an eye out on this channel over the next few days because there's a lot of stuff that I'm sort of planning. I have this leisure update video that I've been wanting to do for the last couple of weeks. Believe it or not, I also went shopping again today. Fuck my life. So look out for Summer Horror Haul Part 3 and hopefully the final one of the summer. But, you know, Bookman, it was their last day of the 30% off sale, so I you know, and I went in there and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna just see, maybe I'll get one or two things. You'll see when I do that video, hopefully, you know, in the next couple of days. I'll post that up. I also want to do another discussion video. I've got another book review coming soon, so a lot of stuff happening, guys. You don't want to miss out on any of this fun stuff. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe. You might want to just click that bell as well that gives you the notifications because you don't want to miss any of this stuff. It's just too good, right? So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you guys later. Peace out.